we need to speak up and be courageous for ourselves, for our families, for our loved ones, for strangers, our neighbors. We owe it to ourselves to be all of. Hey friends, welcome back to the Glow Up Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Megan Winkler, and it is the week of Halloween and Samhain. Such an exciting, fun week. So just sending you all the good tidings and well wishes for the week. I hope you have a fabulous one. Today, I am just kind of riffing off of some energies from the past few days. So I don't have notes for this episode, and I kind of love that because I'm going to let my intuition and spirit guide us through this podcast episode. I do know that I want to talk about people pleasing, though. And the reason this has come up is this past weekend, I hosted my Black Moon in Lilith activation or Black Moon Lilith activation course. Scratch that. It's not a course. It was a class. So this weekend, I hosted my Activate Your Black Moon Lilith class. And it was a beautiful workshop. I am in the works creating an evergreen product that you can purchase. It will have all of the tangible assets from the workshop available, as well as an audio companion to that workbook. But that way, like, I can keep the container that was that day, I can keep that separate. And so you will not be experiencing what we experienced together on the call, just for the privacy of those people in that moment. But you can totally walk through this experience for yourself and with your Black Moon Lilith sign. So one of the big themes that came up, and when I teach a live workshop or a live class, I really allow the energy of the space and the energy of the people there to kind of guide what comes up. So I had this overarching theme of we were going to start with an intention setting meditation. And in the moment, I pivoted and was like, okay, so with the intention, we're also going to look at those too much statements that have followed us through life. So I don't know about you, but like I was too loud. I was too tall and too big. I had too much boobs. Middle school sucks. I was too sensitive. I was too emotional. I was too weird as well. I was also too smart sometimes. The thing is I'm not any of those things. I just am myself. But the problem is we have these stories in our lives about how we're too much of something because us being ourselves made other people uncomfortable. And so a lot of us then slipped into people pleasing mode and we exiled parts of ourselves and we closed the door on parts of us and only let those parts out in very trusted company or when we were alone or maybe not even at all. I had an interesting experience this weekend where I had a little bit of a conflict in person, just a misunderstanding. And I was really bothered by it because I realized that there's still a part of me that wants everybody to like me. And it's just not realistic. And I'm sharing this with you because I can sit here all day and be like, it's not realistic to expect that everybody's going to like you. But if I'm like literally like, I had to remind myself of that this weekend, it helps, I hope, to put it in context for you so that you can see that even somebody that works on this on the regular and, is anti-burnout and anti-stress and all that, still I experience this stuff. I've broken up with a bunch of my people-pleasing parts and my people-pleasing tendencies, and they still pop up. But what was interesting about the workshop is I really leaned into this too muchness. And I just finished recording the audio for the self guided version of this workshop. And I kept that in because I really feel like it's valuable. I think that a lot of us women, and even in men and non binary folks, but especially women, we're worried about being too much. And this is a time where we need to be all of ourselves. We need to speak up and be courageous for ourselves, for our families, for our loved ones, for strangers, our neighbors. We owe it to ourselves to be all of ourselves. Does that make sense? I hope I didn't lose you on that. You owe it to yourself to be all of yourself. Okay? You owe it to your kids, your partner, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, baby, your pets, your friends, to be all of yourself. Now, I hope this doesn't sound like another to-do because it certainly is not intended to add to your to-do list. In fact, it's an invitation to shed the masks that we wear, to shed the shields and boundaries we put up around ourselves that actually don't serve us. I talk a lot about boundaries. There are boundaries that absolutely are healthy and that protect us and help others understand how we expect to be treated in the world. Okay, these are good. This helps prevent burnout, helps prevent stress. I'm here for it. But sometimes we build walls, and sometimes we close ourselves off. And we can have a big wall around our heart, or a wall around our weirdness, or a wall around our creativity. Because other people have told us how they perceive us, and we have accepted that as truth. So with the Black Moon Lilith workshop, we talked a lot about astrology and like the astrological placements and the houses that our Lilith can be in and all that and what that can kind of reveal. And I think it's also important to talk about these figures from mythology, from traditional storytelling, talk about these women also from history that refused to back down. What can we learn from them? So Lilith, depending on the story you pick, she either was in a tree that the goddess Inanna wanted to harvest for a crown and an elaborate marriage bed, so was chased out of her sacred garden, or she was the first wife of Adam and was also created from clay, thereby being equal to Adam, and stood up to him and said, no, I don't want to do all the things that you want to do sexually. Guess what? Some stories, depending on what you hear, she wanted to hop on top. And you know what? You go, cowgirl. I'm here for it. It's really interesting when you look at the stories that have moved through civilization because you have a woman who is either where she's not quote unquote supposed to be, or she is not quote unquote acting like she should, right? Like, you're supposed to act this way. You're supposed to live in this space. You're supposed to be out of here. You're not supposed to do this. You're supposed to do this instead. I don't know about you, but I grew up in a very southern family. So I lived in Texas for most of my life. But my grandmother's family kind of came from more of like the deep south. And there was a lot of these like weird shoulds attached to things that we did when I was growing up, down to like, you can start wearing white shoes at Easter. In fact, you're supposed to, and you're supposed to go to church on Easter Sunday. And there were all of these rituals around Easter Sunday. And I think part of that was because it was my grandmother's favorite holiday. She loves the spring. But there was a lot of should nots, it was like I learned like different forks and spoons from that Easter table. There was the whole, don't wear white after Labor Day thing, which I have since learned is, one percenter capitalist bullshit that kind of like traces back to nobility, where it was like, oh, if you had enough money, you were then able to say, oh, no white after this certain time because you had the vast wardrobe, right? So, like, the aristocrats were like, oh, no white after Labor Day because they could. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that rolls back to the Gilded Age. So, if you've watched the Gilded Age show, you get it. Like, you can totally see Bertha and those other characters really leaning into no wearing white after Labor Day. But we had all these like weird things, and attached to that was like ways that little boys were supposed to act and little girls were supposed to act, and they weren't really supposed to overlap in those behaviors. Right? It's the whole sugar and spice, everything nice, and boys are made of, I can't remember, it was something something and cottontails. Like it was like sticks and stones and snails and frogs and all this, and it was like dirt and of the earth and messy and chaotic, and then girls were supposed to be prim and proper and well behaved. And so I carried these stories with me into adulthood. And maybe this sounds really familiar to you, maybe it doesn't. But I carried these stories with me into adulthood. I also carried in stories like what type of mom I was supposed to be, or what type of person I was supposed to be. It took me a long time to kind of break up with the idea of the type of person I was supposed to vote for, or, how I was supposed to look at church and religion and all this stuff. So, like, all of these stories. And it also took me a long time to realize, like, I should stand up straight. I deserve to have beautiful posture. And I deserve to take up all the space that my body takes up. I'm 5'10". I have broad shoulders. It's okay. There's all these stories that we have that we adhere to continue to please people around us. And I share this with you today because I'm seeing a big trend, and I'm seeing a conflict between what we've been told to do and what we desire to do. And they're opposite in some cases. So I want to invite you to explore what those too much stories are in your life. What are the things that you have been told you're too much of? Like, you're too loud, you're too quiet, you're too, I don't know, sensitive, emotional, you're too athletic, too sporty, right? You're too, I don't know, artistic. People find the strangest things to make us feel uncomfortable about because of their own insecurities. But jot these down, really write them down, think about them, and sit with them, and ask yourself if it's true. Because, my friend, if you listen to your heart and you listen to your inner Lilith, she is going to say, no, this is not true. You're not too much. You've never been too much. You've never been too loud or too weird. And see what this part of you has to say. Because when we're able to break up with these ideas of being too much of something, then we're able to step more into our authentic power. We're able to release some of those people-pleasing tendencies, or at very least become aware of them so we can start to release them. Hopefully that makes sense. Because even myself, like, I do want everybody to like me. I do. And most people do like me. And it's the ones that don't that I'm like, I don't understand. Now, I am at the point in my healing where I'm not going to bend over backwards to get somebody to like me. But there is still a little girl part of me that's like, but why isn't everybody my friend? We can dismantle this piece by piece, brick by brick. It takes time, but it is worth it. And I'm telling you right now, you are not too much. You are safe being who you are. And I love you for you. Okay. And I may never have met you, but I can 100% tell you that anytime I've met somebody or passed them on the street or sat down next to them at a table in a, brunch spot, that if somebody's being themselves, I think you're freaking cool. And I want that for you. I want you to be in your authentic expression because authentic expression equals authentic power. And in that authentic expression, authentic power vein, we then release the need to be perfect. We release the need to please others before ourselves. We release the need to take care of others before we take care of ourselves. So I'm not saying you shouldn't take care of others, especially like if you're a parent or a caregiver. Like, absolutely, yes, of course you have to take care of others, but you don't have to take care of others at the expense of yourself. You don't have to communicate with others at the expense of yourself. So this is your invitation to pull out the art supplies or join Toastmasters or start writing that book or go dancing on the weekend or go all out with your Halloween costume, whatever it is. Be yourself. Step into that quote unquote too much part of you and see what happens because you will begin to attract amazing friends, community, maybe even lovers, who knows, clients, colleagues, partners, and just really cool people that you want in your life. The more you that you become, the more delicious life is. My friends, I'm so excited that you're here with me today. Thank you so, so much. If you feel called, I would love to invite you to join my Patreon. You can join for free, but for as little as $3 a month, you get some little extras each month, little PDF goodies, and then there's a higher tier as well for more in-depth tools and all that. You also get to come into my private school community where we can connect with one another. And that helps support the work that I do here on the podcast, as well as some of the other resources that I share with my audience. And I just really appreciate your support because I could run ads, but I don't want to. So thank you again for your support. You can find that at Patreon. It's the Glow Up Circle. And you can also find me on Instagram at It's Megan Winkler. And I would love to connect with you there. Let me know that you heard about my account on the podcast. And I'd love to chat with you in the DMs. My friends, please, please take care of yourself. Stay hydrated. Find your people in person if possible. And if not, I am here if you need anything. And above all, until next time, stay magical.